All right, we're live. It's 11:30 Friday. Welcome everyone. All right, we are going to get started. It's a beautiful day today. If you get a chance to come out today and play, it's a perfect time. It's going to be really nice later on this afternoon. So, welcome everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the five shots in tennis that I think are extremely crucial for being a good doubles player. So just to recap what we talked about on Wednesday, we discussed the statistics that go into a match. And we talked about how 70% of the points won are before 4 shots are hit, 0 to 4 shots are hit. So we're going to kind of use that as a springboard with these 5 shots and how those incorporate with our with how we approach our practice and our match. So first off, we'll do a countdown 5 to 1, and so our first one is the overhead. Okay, so when we're talking about overheads, there are 2 common errors that come along with this shot, and I think if you can address those issues in your lessons and in your practice, it's going to make your life a lot easier finishing off the point. It kind of instills a little bit of fear into your opponent. So let's talk about those two common errors. The 2 common errors that I see are the lack of weight transfer into the ball, and then that in turn leads to ending facing the net. So you're too square. So we really have to think about how when we see that there's going to be a lob, when the lob is put up into the air, your first motion should be this drop step. So if you look at something like, it's going to look something like this. So you kind of turn that back leg back. So, and you see how that gets me automatically turned with my shoulders and my body. And now my weight transfer is back. And then you get underneath the ball. And then now you can weight transfer into the ball. But the common mistake is that weight transfer is open. So our first motion is, oh shoot. And now everything is back and we have no shoulder turn, and therefore we have no weight transfer. So just really, really focus on when you see that lob come up, this drop step is your first motion, and that's going to help you get back and underneath that ball so that we can make contact slightly out in front. If you're looking at a clock, it's going to be around 1 o'clock, okay? And so and when you're following ball, when you're tracking the ball in the air, it's like you're going to catch a fly ball. So you want to kind of get out behind it so that you can catch it, here versus way back here or too far out in front. So it's going to be right about there, okay, right at that angle. And that, with that drop step, that's going to get your left shoulder, or if you're a lefty, your right shoulder, it's going to get it turned, and it's going to allow you to keep that left arm up. If we're too square, then we drop that arm, and then the slot machine shot comes in. So we're doing this motion, which puts a lot of pressure on that right shoulder. All right, so now where do we place the ball? Ideally, we want to place the ball at the net person, right? So we want to instill a little bit of fear into that net person, and also, it's a good target. Obviously, you're not trying to hit them, but that's kind of the general area that you're trying to hit to. But if you're feeling a little tense, if you're feeling a little nervous, when in doubt, hit it to the middle. Hit it to the middle of the court, right over here. Okay. It's obviously the biggest target, and the easiest shot to hit to is up the middle. If you're trying to hit the line, if you're trying to hit away, we tend to give away free points. And just think of that overhead as an opportunity rather than, oh crap, I don't want to hit an overhead. You want to take those balls out of the air as much as possible. Letting that ball bounce and drop gives them time. The whole idea of the overhead is to take time away from your opponent. Okay, so I think the big thing is changing our mindset as to how we approach that overhead, and then also just making sure that drop step happens. That's really going to be the big key. It's getting that drop step back, so then now you can push off and load, and your weight transfer goes into that ball. You don't have to swing as hard. Your whole kinetic chain will happen, and it's going to take a lot of pressure off of your overhead. Mentally and physically, it's going to be a lot easier to hit. All right. Okay. So moving on to number 4. All right. Number 4, first serve. Okay. We talked about on Wednesday, how that serve, we talked about this Monday and Wednesday, how that first serve is extremely crucial to getting that point going. If we can't get that first serve in, now we're putting a lot of pressure on yourself and then also your partner. Typically in doubles, the first serve percentage should be higher. In singles, you can go for it a little bit more. You have a little bit more court to work with, or a little bit less court to work with. Excuse me. So, you can have typically it's a lower percentage first serve in singles, but your real goal is to have that first serve percentage up. We are now when we're talking about toss and contact on our first serve, we're really focusing on your toss is only as tall as your reach. So for me, it's going to be with my racket extended. It doesn't have to be any higher than that. All right. So if you think about it, if your toss is too high, the ball gets up there and then it hits its peak, and then it starts to drop. And at a certain point, it drops, it's going to accelerate. And so then you have to time it. So if your toss is too high, now you're dealing with having to get your racket all the way around and then time it as that ball is dropping. But if your toss is just as high as your reach, now just remember, when the ball gets up there, it has a slight pause, and then it starts to slowly drop. So if we can hit it at that pause or as it's just about to drop, that's our ideal contact point. Okay. So just think about that. When you're at home, you definitely don't have to be out here, but you can take a tennis ball and practice tossing and get up against a wall and toss and see where your contact is, and make sure that your arm is extended and your racket is extended. If you're hitting it here, that means that toss is too low. And then if you're having to wait too long, that means that toss is too high. All right. So kind of an easy little thing you can do at home. You can do it in your garage, entry room wall, whatever, but get that toss, practice that toss so that it's nice and high, but not too high. Just think about racket extended, and that's about as high as you want that racket or that toss to be. Okay. When we're talking about first serve placement, all right, we're looking for aggressive targets. Okay. Because it is your first serve, you can go for it a little bit more. But you are looking to place your first serve to your opponent's weakness. So, typically if you're on the deuce court, you're looking to try and hit it in the body. Okay, so you're looking for them to kind of hit that inside out backhand, which kind of jams them. Okay, so it's here. And if you think about it, the first serve is typically has a little bit more pace on it. So if you're hitting into their body where it kind of jams them, and now they're going to be hitting late, that goes all the way back to what we discussed about being a solid doubles partner, is hitting shots that will set your partner up for success. All right, so now if you hit down the tee, that obviously stretches them out, and now they're going to be hitting a shorter ball inside the service box, so you can hit that first volley, or you can hit an approach shot, and that's your transition ball into the net. All right, so then if you're looking at the ad side, you're again looking for that body serve that's going to jam them into their body, and then also this out wide ball here, okay, and that's going to stretch them out and also draw the ball to your net, to the net person. Okay, so covered that first serve. Really, one other thing that I'd like to kind of discuss is we can get a more of a relaxed motion. With a lot of you, we'll start doing this in our lessons, but what we call wristers. So we're really trying to relax the arm, and this is going to really emphasize the racket head speed, because some of us, we may not be able to get that full motion of the bend and load into the serve. But if we can have the racket head speed, if it can accelerate at the point of contact, that's our key. Regardless of what your motion looks like, regardless if you bend your knees, if you have the right, if you have the right shoulder turn, everything like that. If we can get the racket head to accelerate through the ball. So, what you're going to do is you can do this at home, and you're really looking for height, and you're looking for the sound. So nice and relaxed, and you're really looking for that racket head to come through the ball. So we'll do it again. Oh my gosh. So nice and loose. You kind of start with your racket kind of down, and then you're looking, and you want to toss it out in front, but you're really looking to hit down on that ball and get that racket head to accelerate, come through it at a faster rate. Okay, and if you have any questions on that, please let me know. And you're really looking for height on the ball bounce, and then you're also listening for that sound of that pop. Okay, so now we're moving on to number 3. Okay, number 3, are you ready? Volley. Okay. We talked about those three firsts: your first serve, your first return, and your first volley. But to me, the first volley establishes what the rest of the point is going to, generally speaking, what the rest of the point is going to look like. If that first volley is weak, we're setting ourselves up and our partner for an unsuccessful point. So it's that transition ball. It sets you up. It sets your partner up. So it's typically not going to be a winner. I'd say about 90% of the time it's not going to be a winner. It's to set yourself up for the winner. So that's your mentality as you approach, especially that first volley. You're really trying to establish a rapport with your opponent. That first volley is, you're going to hit it deep, you're going to hit it to the correct spot. So I have a few mats laid out here, if you can see those, the yellow mats over here, and then further down over here. Okay. Okay, so that first volley, just remember, it's the location and placement is more important than power. So you're going to have to play your opponent, and you're going to have to play the point, because based on where your return or where their serve, and what that +1 ball looks like, you're going to be saying, okay, if I hit a solid return and I'm coming forward, and that first volley, depending on where your opponent is, if they're back, if they're way back over there off the court, then you should be hitting it short to this target over here. Okay. And then, if they're kind of middle of the court, you're just wanting to hit it back deep and set yourself up to come in. All right. So placement is huge, but typically I would say about 75% of the time, your first volley should be right about here. This is your spot. That's your spot to where you want to hit that first volley. It will stay low. It makes your opponent come up. And I would say people move really well side to side, but the up and back is going to be the difficult thing for a lot of people. That agility is more challenging. So if we can move them forward on a short, low ball, they're going to pop that ball up. And now what happens? Now we have the overhead, or now we have that put away volley that we're looking for. But again, that mentality, it's so key. It's not going to be a winner. It's a setup shot, and you're trying to it's a shot to set up your partner. It's not a game of singles, it's a game of doubles, a team working together for one common goal, and that's to set each other up. We're looking for that assist. And by hitting to the correct spots, that's going to be that's huge. Okay, so now we're going to be moving on to number 2. All right, so here we go. Return of serve. Okay. All right. Again, goes back to those statistics, goes back to all of the things that we've been discussing this week. But I think the big thing is that we'll start off talking about is where do we start on the first and where do we start on the second serve, and where should we end up? Okay, so I'm going to move back here, and we'll discuss that here in just a minute. Okay. All right. So for the first serve, we're looking to start on that baseline. Okay, and we're going to end up 1, 2, 3, 4 steps in. Okay. So toes on that first serve, toes start on the baseline. And then like we discussed on Monday, as they toss, it's a step, split, go. Okay. And then and that's for the first and the second serve. So you're wanting to make sure that those toes are on the baseline on that first serve, and then your momentum is moving forward into the ball. Now, your second serve, on the second serve of return, you're going to want to encroach. You're going to want to start 3 or 4 steps in off of the baseline, and then you're going to be ending up on the service line. Okay? So first serve, toes on the baseline, and you're ending up 4 steps in. On the second serve, you're starting 3 or 4 steps in, depending on their second serve, and then you're ending up 1 step inside that service line. Okay? And if you think about it, the second serve is basically an approach shot. It's that short transition ball that we hit. So treat it as such. Hit the ball cross court. Again, we're looking for that deep mat over here, right here where my bracket's pointing. That's our target. Or we can hit to this little angle spot over here, where this little mat is here. Okay, so where that T intersects. Okay. Again, we hit to that spot because we're looking for high percentage, and just remember the return of serve is like a battle of attrition. Okay, so we're looking to keep the server's net spot out, and keep the server's net person out of play. Okay, and so we're constant. It's that battle. It's trying to get that ball. so that you're getting the ball in play, you're keeping your partner in play, and then you're also looking to be aggressive and take charge, but in a way that you're playing a higher percentage of tennis. Okay, so as we talk about that return of serve, we don't want any roses. We don't want any roses for your opponents. Okay, so roses are return of serve errors. Okay, and so we're return of serve unforced errors. Okay, so we're not wanting to give those roses away. We're trying to keep that ball in play, get it going, and we've got to establish that early on in the point as we as we start that match. We've really got to establish some of those returns. So let's talk about 4 different returns. Okay, so we're talking about a cross court return, just a solid ball cross court return, and then we're also going to discuss that down the line return. Okay, so you can establish that early, especially on a second serve, but be smart about when you hit that down the line return. Do not hit it every time. People start reading it, and then now they're gonna be on to you real early. So make sure that you're playing the point or playing the score, and then also make sure that it's the correct ball to hit. All right, so don't be rushing that. Don't rush that down the line, because if you don't hit it just right, now you're setting your partner up for a ball that's going to be a put away. Okay, then you can also lob down the line, and then that allows you to come in. That draws them off of the net, and then you can also do that chip and charge. So, or hit and then come in. So charging that net, so both of you are at the net rather than one up, that one back. Okay, so our last and final shot that I think is super important. Okay, second serve. Okay, and again, that just goes back to we've got to make sure that our placement is correct, and then also remember 33% of our game is double faults. Okay, so 3 out of 10 points we're double faulting, and it's not a strong statistic for us. So we really have to make sure that we're getting that second serve. And come out and practice those serves. We've got members coming out using their baskets of balls. Set up targets so that you're getting to the correct spots, and those spots are still the same. Okay, but you just want to make sure that those are deeper in the box, so that you're kind of pushing those people back. You don't want them landing short in that box. And it goes back to that racket head speed, getting that racket head to come through at a faster rate, and get a little bit of spin on it. If you're struggling with that, come on out. I'll give you a couple of tips, and we'll also discuss that later on in some of the videos. But really focusing on that higher percentage second serve, especially if that first serve isn't going in. You've really got to make sure that your second serve is strong, because that will help your confidence. If you think about it, if you're double faulting, now your confidence across the board, not just in your serve, but it all just kind of plummets, and then everything kind of snowballs into a negative effect. So we really want to focus on that second serve and that return of serve. Those are the 2 that I think that's where they're at the top of my list of things that are so important for us to really focus on and hone in on, especially when competition comes around. We've really got to make sure that those things are rock solid for you and for your partner. But anyway, I hope this was helpful. Just as a recap from Wednesday, the thing that is super, I think that we really have to make sure that we're really honing in on is 70% of the points are won between 0 and 4 shots. If we can win 90% of if we can win the points 0 to 4 shots, our chances of winning the point winning the game, winning the match goes up 90%. So let's just remember that as we approach our matches, as we approach our practice, that those are the kinds of things that we're looking for to focus on. Anyway, thank you for joining me. Thank you for a wonderful first week of our first YouTube Live videos. Please come out and play. We have an awesome backboard. We have baskets of balls you're welcome to use. You don't need a partner to play. You can always drop, feed your balls. You can have your kids come out. But thanks again. Hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next week, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday at 11 o'clock. All right. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.